So you know how I showed you how to get over 1,000 shards per minute in this video? Yeah, that's chump change. Let me show you how to get over 2 billion. This trick lets you duplicate your current inventory to get more copies of items you already have. So in addition to getting virtually unlimited shards, you can also get more copies of your favorite coils and weaves and easily get needed upgrade resources. Plus, it allows you to get a couple of coils you can't get anywhere else in the game. Yes, this is the arena duplication glitch you may have seen before, but the escape route is super easy now, and yes, everything I'll show you is possible on both PC and PlayStation. Now, I know people are going to comment this anyway, but yeah, if you're on PC, you can do all of this with a mod. But most people aren't comfortable modding their game, so this is a nice in-game method that lets you get lots of shards and items. For those of you that don't like the fact that this is an exploit, remember, this is a single-player game, and you don't have to use it if you don't want to. Also, if anything ever changes with how this works, I'll update the pinned comment below this video. I'll also leave some tips for common issues and mistakes down there, so check that first if you have any questions. Okay, so the overall idea here is to start an arena challenge, and then, while it's active, escape the arena and go find a stash. See, when you're in an arena challenge, the game saves a copy of your inventory to restore to you after you exit the challenge. So if we can manage to put our stuff in a stash during a challenge, when we exit it, our items will be restored to our inventory like normal, but we'll also have duplicate copies of all those items in our stash. So we'll double everything we had. You can duplicate anything except weapons and outfits, so make sure to remove any coils and weaves you want to duplicate from your weapons and outfits and have those in your inventory. Now, the stash at the arena disappears while a challenge is active, so we'll have to use one somewhere else. This shelter over here generally works best. Lowlands Path is also a good option, but it's harder to navigate there and back without a late game mount, especially since the map isn't available while in the glitch state. So before you get started, open the map and place a waypoint on the shelter to make things easier on yourself. To find your way back to the arena, you can also create a job for something at a merchant in the arena so you have a marker to follow. Make sure you have the waypoint pathfinding setting on guided for the markers to show up. Also, before messing around with any of this, you should always make a manual save at a campfire in case something goes wrong.
Just do it!
Okay, now that you've made a manual save, head over to Kala and start the Grim Prospects Arena Challenge. If you need some help beating the challenges before this one to unlock it, I have an arena guide I'll link below. After starting the challenge, jump down and head to the right to go up this ramp. Run a little ways along the platform at the top towards this opening in the wall. Then jump over into that opening. Once you're in here, you'll be confronted with a metal barrier, but you can just walk around the side of it and keep heading up. Right after that though, you'll run into a big wooden gate. Now you're going to slip under this, but to do so, you need to follow a couple of very specific steps. First, walk up to this spot right here and get Aloy to climb up on the log. It's really important you don't jump up onto the log. You need Aloy to automatically climb onto it herself. Just keep holding forward into the log at slightly different spots until she climbs up. Right after that, crouch and then walk side to side to find a spot where Aloy phases down through the log onto the ground. Now stay crouched and you'll be able to walk over to the left corner where you can phase partway through the gate. Keep crouch walking and head over to the center of the gates where you can simply walk out. You'll see this is actually the entrance where you start challenges with Kala, and she's a little confused about what the f you're doing. Huge shout out to Aruga who discovered this easy route, as well as so many others who contributed to the evolution of the duplication glitch over time. Alright, now that you've escaped, the hard part is over, but you can still mess this up, so watch carefully. You can't just head straight for the shelter. If you do, as you cross the river just east of the arena, the game will bounce you back to failing the challenge. So instead, you need to go outside near the campfire and turn left to head north. Stay on this side of the river and keep going until you get to a bridge a little ways north where you can cross. Imagine there's a big invisible barrier running down the center of the river, and the northern end of it is at this bridge. After you cross the bridge, you'll notice the challenge will fail and the timer will stop, but you won't get bounced back. So now you're officially in the glitch state, and free to follow your waypoint marker directly to the shelter. Once you arrive, open the stash, make sure to switch from looking at the stash to looking at your inventory, and put all the items you want to duplicate inside. I recommend putting all your resources, tools, coils, and weaves in. Remember, you can only mark and store one tab at a time. Once you've deposited everything, you can simply head straight back to the arena, following that job marker you made before. Once you're back, go to Kala and start up the same Grim Prospects challenge again, and then immediately abandon it once the challenge begins. Starting the challenge again and then abandoning is how you get out of the glitch state. Once you've done that, congratulations, you've successfully duplicated your items. You'll have all the original copies back in your inventory, and you can find the duplicates in your stash. To get more copies, of course you can do all the steps again, but remember to take the copies out of your stash first so you can benefit from exponential growth. If you want a bunch of shards, then you just need to sell off extra duplicated items to a merchant. High rarity coils, weaves, and machine components work well for that. But be careful not to rack up more than about 2 billion shards, because if you pass the specific number on screen, your shard count will go negative and you won't be able to spend shards on anything. For coils and most resources, you can carry 10,000 in your inventory and sock even more away in the stash. But having a lot in your inventory will start to bog down menu loading, so I don't recommend running around with more than a few dozen copies of anything. My personal favorite use for the arena glitch is to get more copies of my favorite coils. You can do this legitimately by doing a bunch of New Game Plus runs, which you would probably end up blasting through on story mode, but that still takes a lot of time. So being able to duplicate coils is really nice. Getting a bunch of ammo resources is really nice too, so that you don't have to worry about resource management in the endgame. Being stocked up on shards is also helpful to fund grinding arena challenges, since they cost shards to enter every time. Some people also like using the exploit to duplicate upgrade resources so they can avoid the machine hunting grind, which honestly does take a lot of time. Personally, I like to finish everything legitimately before using the arena glitch, but you can certainly do whatever's fun for you. Now, to get those special coils, we have to do things slightly differently. The special coils are automatically added to your inventory during a few of the locked loadout challenges, along with all the other gear you're forced to use in those. The 25% critical hit damage coil is in Dreaded Encounter and Apex Predators, and the 1% instant shock chance coil is in From the Deep, Tremortusk Tussle, and Dreaded Encounter. So Dreaded has them both, and that's the one I prefer to use. The escape route is different and a little trickier here. I covered it in detail in another video that I'll link below, but basically you need to use the glider jump trick to get up onto this overhang that sticks out over the starting platform in some of the challenges. Then hop over onto the other overhang and glider jump up one more time to get up onto the platform above. There's some invisible walls up here, and you need to finesse your way into slipping through a gap by running forward on top of this log and slowly moving the camera back and forth. I'd recommend crafting some extra smoke bombs while you're down on the starting platform to help neutralize the Dreadwing. It can be pretty annoying with its ranged attacks. Slipping through the gap is tricky, but it is possible on both PlayStation and PC, and it can be done using a controller or keyboard and mouse, so it doesn't matter how you're playing the game. That being said, I personally find it much easier to do with a controller, but that might just be because I'm more used to playing the game that way. But on PC, I did find it much easier to get through the gap after adjusting a few key settings as well. First, I locked my frame rate to 60 FPS in the NVIDIA control panel and also turned on VSync in there. Then I also set the in-game window mode to exclusive full screen, which allows you to lock the in-game refresh rate to 60 as well. I also made sure to have VSync on in-game. I can't say that all of these settings are absolutely necessary, but I do think locking to 60 FPS in NVIDIA control panel makes a difference. Of course, you can change all these settings back to your preferred options when you're done. If you're on PS5, then you'll want to make sure to set your game to performance mode. It's much easier to slip through on performance mode than resolution mode. And on any platform, it's easier to get through this gap after completing the Singularity main quest. So if you're really having trouble, try finishing that first and then coming back. Now, depending on which main quest you're on, there might also be another invisible wall to get around in the Memorial Grove a little ways after slipping through the gap. To get past this, you need to use the super glider trick to phase around it, or just get past Singularity and it will be gone. Again, I'll link the video with details on this route and how to do glider jumps and the super glider down below. One quick tip I did want to give you though is exactly how to do the glider jump consistently. The simplest way to do it is by holding your crouch button down and then hitting jump. Make sure not to let go of the crouch button until the glider is deployed. This works on both PlayStation and PC, and it doesn't matter if you're using a controller or keyboard and mouse. The only time the glider jump won't work is if you're on PS4 PS4, which we'll come back to in a minute. So for these special coils, once you manage to escape dreaded encounter, run through the Memorial Grove and head back to the arena, being careful to hug the walls outside the grove and not wandering too far away. Unlike the duplication glitch, you need to make sure the timer continues rolling for this to work. Once you're back at the arena, open the merchant's inventory and go to your sell menu, where you'll find 2 copies of the instant shock coil and 1 copy of the 25% critical hit damage coil. Sell those to the merchant and you'll be able to buy them back in a moment once we exit the challenge. It's also worth noting that this is a good way to get Regala's Wrath, a pretty nice sharpshot bow that is missable if you don't choose the right option during a main quest. Once you've sold these items to the merchant, simply bring up the game menu and abandon the challenge. Then run back over to the merchant, go to their buyback section, and you'll be able to purchase the coils and bow from there. Now, if you're on PS4, you won't be able to use the gate or overhang escape routes we covered in this video. Instead, you'll need to use the old infinite jump method. I'll link my video on that down below. But regardless of which method you use, once you've got your items duplicated using the glitch, you're going to need to know the best way to use all your new coils on your weapons. So I'll leave my video on the best ways to coil every weapon for you right here. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to check the pinned comment if you have questions, and I'll see you in that video in just a second.